Two guys in their early 50s with one dream: to achieve middle-aged sporting glory. This is the Missing Links Golf Show.
G'day Pilgrims, welcome back to the Missing Links Golf Show. This is Andy Walker, flying solo this week as Mr. Hinks is a little bit unwell. So I'm going to do a bit of an overview on the US Open that finished over the weekend. Steve and I were back to cover it in a bit more in depth, especially some of the bigger name players, the likes of Scotty Scheffler and Bryson DeChambeau, John Rahm, just about their performance and where we see sort of golf heading for them. But I just want to cover off just on the guys on the leaderboard, what I saw, what I loved about the final round, what I loved about the golf course, and then finishing off with a very important question in that who's a bigger book, Rory McIlroy for not showing up to the media or Steve Hinks for not actually showing up to this podcast. Let's get into it. So as we know, JJ Spaun, US Open champion. What an epic final putt on 18. I think that's going to go down in history as one of the greatest shots, well, not just in US Open history, but in major golf history. I mean, JJ Spaun talked about, having his own great moment. He talked about the chip in from Tiger in the US Masters on the 16th. He talked about Nick Taylor's massive putt in the Canadian Open a couple of years back. And he said how cool it was for him to have his own moment. And it's something that he's going to remember for the rest of his life. But it's, for me, it wasn't just the final putt. I mean, he hit so many clutch shots over the back nine. I mean, you see the tee shot that he hit on 17. At one point, I thought that was going to hit the flagstick. It was such a great tee shot that he absolutely nailed straight at the flag. I mean, even his tee shot at 18 was absolutely clutch. So I think there were so many cool moments. But he started the day at -3 in the penultimate group, and he bogeyed the last in round 3. He was in the last group on round 3 and bogeyed the last to actually drop back into the penultimate group. On day 4, he bogeyed 5 out of the first 6 holes. And he did have some bad luck. I mean, I watched his tee shot, his second shot on 2. And I mean, that wedge shot he hit into 2 was a really, really good shot. I mean, he flighted it really well. It was straight at the flagstick. And so much so it hit the flagstick and ricocheted back off the front of the green, and ended up making bogey from that. I mean, he talked about that. He felt as though that was a 2-shot swing. But I sort of see it, as unlucky as, say, Tiger shot in the 2013 Masters on the 15th, where Tiger hit the flag and it ricocheted back into the hazard. Doesn't happen very often, but certainly in the last round when you're contending for a US Open, I think Tiger's was like round 2, so he wasn't actually contending at the time, but to do it in the last round have that to happen in the last round of the US Open when you're contending, and then just to reset, regather your thoughts, and just accept that as part of the game, I think is really special. But then again, I mean, it also balanced out on 18, where Victor Hovland hit his second shot literally a foot away from where JJ Spaun was, and gave JJ Spaun the exact line and the exact pace that he needed to hit his putt on 18. But I guess it's one thing to know the line and to know what the speed is, and the second thing is, especially under that sort of pressure where you have to 2-putt effectively to win, and then to go out and execute that. And obviously he did, and ended up with an absolutely epic moment in the game, and I think it was great to see. I think it was one of those moments where I think that we've seen him lose the playoff to Rory in the Players Championship, and yeah, you just sort of see it as a bit of a coming of age of a guy who's been a battler for a lot of his life, a lot of his career, and yeah, all of a sudden he's put the work in, and he's got the rewards for it. And I think that's really cool to see. But I loved his control through the 4 days. I loved his demeanour. I always felt he was going to be a threat. I watched him in the Players Championship, and he just didn't seem phased by the moment. In fact, he was sort of a roll short of winning the Players Championship on the 18th green. So I felt he was always gonna be a threat throughout the week, and he was always there or thereabouts. As I said, bit of a bad start, bogeying 5 out of the first 6. I think the rain delay really helped him reset. He did talk about that he had a shower, he changed his clothes, just because he wanted to just have that reset and come out with a fresh mindset. And I think it's a really good example of coming back from adversity, and just being clutch in the last moments of a major championship, and I thought it was really cool to see. Robert McIntyre, who came in second, didn't really hear that much from him through the week. If I pull up his scorecard, so round 1 he shot even par. Round 2 on Friday had a pretty ordinary round at 4 over. Came back with 1 under in round 3, but then in round 4 really sort of came into his own. And over the last 10 holes, especially in that weather, to shoot 3 under in the last 10 holes or the last 12 holes, I think was really, really special. Certainly, I think he's had plenty of practice growing up, being a Scotsman. It was very, very typical Scottish weather over the closing stretch, and I just, you sort of feel as though Robert McIntyre is knocking on the door of a major championship. I mean, he won the Canadian Open last year. He won the Scottish Open last year, and both times with his dad on the bag. I mean, how cool is that to have two wins with your dad on the bag? But you sort of feel as though his time's going to come, and whether that be in the Open Championship. I mean, I think that's probably his main focus, and what the number one tournament, that championship that he'd love to win. But also, I don't think he'd knock back any of the others, as I'm sure no golfer would. But one thing I do want to sort of point out with Robert McIntyre, and something that I think was really, really cool, is there was footage of him watching JJ Spawn hold the putt on 18, and he clapped. And he was, you could see he was really happy for JJ Spawn, and he just went, wow. And I think that was such great sportsmanship. And one thing that I think you've got to give a lot of kudos to Robert McIntyre. And I do hope he has his moment. He's certainly got the game for it. Yeah, he seems to have that, will and desire, and being able to produce the right shot at the right time in the pressure of a major championship. Victor Hovland came in third. Now, look, it's good to see Victor Hovland contending again for big events. He sort of hung around the leaderboard all week. I don't know if I was ever confident that he was going to get the job done. He was there or thereabouts without really taking the championship by the neck and running with it. I mean, he had even par on the second 9, but he just got off to a bit of an ordinary start. He had three over on the front nine, but then just didn't seem to, have the same shots as what, say, JJ Spawn or Robert McIntyre produced. Yes, it was tough conditions. I understand that it was really tough, but I'd love to see Victor Hovland have his moment. And win a major championship, and I'm sure he will. But certainly this week, I sort of feel as though, he had a good week, and I think he would look back and be happy. He hasn't showed a lot of form in 2025, so I think this potentially could serve as give him a bit of a confidence boost. I know he's trying to get back to his old swing. I mean, he changes his coach, probably more often than he changes his undies. Um, I feel as though if he just got back to what he does well and focuses on the fundamental things that he's always done well. I think he'll do a lot better and contend in numerous major championships over the next 10 years. Sam Burns. Look, I like Sam Burns. I would love to see him win a major championship. I feel as though he's got the game to win a major championship, but he just seems to be missing the ability to close it out. I've seen him previously not play well over the closing stretch, and certainly from my perspective, I don't think that he never really looked like he was comfortable out there. Whether he can be actually comfortable, coming down the stretch in a major championship is probably questionable. I sort of feel as though he's got a bit of work to do. Certainly, 8 over in the final round. I mean, he had 6 over in his last 10 holes. It's just not going to get it done. I mean, he had a great round in round two. He had 5 under in round two, which around Oakmont is phenomenal golf. So he's got the game. He's definitely got the game. But I feel as though he needs to bring that earlier form into the closing stretch of the back nine on Sunday, and I still feel as though he's got some work to do in order to get his game to that point. And yes, I understand he had some bad luck. I mean, you talk about the casual water ruling on 15. I saw a video on X. A guy shortly after Sam Burns hit his shot, he went and tested the ground under where Sam Burns hit his shot from, and look, the ruling on casual water is if you're taking a normal stance and if water comes up, that is casual water. And from what I saw in this video, he probably should have got a casual water relief, but two officials said no. I guess you've got to accept that that's part of the rub of the green, and it was unlucky because you saw his second shot was a result of the fact that there was water on the ball, and water got in between the club face and the ball, and yes, it was unlucky, but did that cost him the US Open? I don't think so. I think there are other contributing factors as well. I mean, you look at the double bogey he had on 11, where he hit a pretty poor shot, you'd have to say. I mean, he was just in the rough on the right-hand side of the fairway, and he hit a fairly poor shot into the grassy slope of the front bunker. Again, probably a little bit of bad luck that it didn't get down into the sand. But then he airmailed the green into just horridly thick rough over the green. In fact, Adam Scott was in the same rough. And then he made double from there. So yes, he had a bit of bad luck with the casual water, but I think there was more to it than that. I think that certainly from my perspective, that he needs, just to work on his game, whether it's, working on his mental approach, whether it's just a matter of putting himself in that position more often. I'm not sure. But there just seems to be something missing for Sam Burns, and I hope he sorts it out. Then we have Adam Scott. Now, I think all of Australia were riding on Adam Scott's final round. Similar to Burns, just didn't seem to be able to deal with the adverse conditions. Um, he was actually driving the ball really well that week, and I was fairly confident that he was gonna shoot a or play well and at least give himself a pretty good chance. But his driver just seemed to, certainly after the rain delay, his driver just seemed to leave him for really when he needed it the most. Um, he had 6 over in his last 8 holes and ended up +9 for round four and +6 for the championship. And again, understand it was incredibly difficult conditions, but I don't think in any way, shape, or form that's going to get it done in any major. I sort of feel like if the weather stayed fine, it would have given him a better chance. I don't feel as though he handled the change of weather particularly well, and I think that he'll go back and have a bit of self-reflection, probably work on his game again. I believe he's just as motivated and just as keen to do well and come back and win another major championship. From what I understand, he feels as though he should be a multiple major winner, and I really hope he does. I think the Open Championship is probably his best bet. I know he did go very close. I think it was 2013 or 2012 that he bogeyed the last 4 holes to miss out. Yeah, I sort of feel as though the Open Championship might be his best option and best opportunity to win another major championship. Now, when it comes to Oakmont itself. Look, there was lots of commentary that it was too tough, and I know that that's been a bit of a theme when the US Open Championship's been at Oakmont. Um, I actually quite like it. Yes, it was really tough in round four, and maybe it sort of with the adverse weather conditions, it probably tipped it into being maybe a little bit too tough, but the guys that were 1 and 2 on the leaderboard, had under par over the closing stretch of holes. So it wasn't impossible. I mean, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't have liked to have played in those conditions. I'm a dry weather golfer, so definitely don't like it when the rain comes over. But if you look at the last 2 times that the US Open's been at Oakmont, 2016 when Dustin Johnson won, he won with -4. Now there are only 4 plays under par in 2016. This year, 2025, there was only 1 player, JJ Spawn, who was under par, and there were 4 players under par in 2016. However, in 2007, when Angel Cabrera won, there was no one under par. +5 won. So I think that it's the US Open. It's meant to be the hardest test of golf of the year. So for me, I like seeing that just the toughest test of golf. Yes, it's a bit different. It's not the sort of golf course where you can overpower it. Certainly the likes of Bryson really struggled. Rory did make the cut, but again he struggled a little bit. And I have listened a lot to Paul McGinley's take on golf, and he is concerned about how one-dimensional, I guess, golf is at the moment. And I do have a similar view. I'd like to see a lot more strategy and creativity come back into the game rather than just the bomb and gouge game that we see a lot, especially on the PGA Tour. I'd like to. I mean, I grew up watching, Jack Nicklaus and Tom Watson and Seve Ballesteros and even Greg Norman, Nick Faldo. It was all around strategy. It wasn't a bomb and gouge. and that's what I like watching. I don't like watching golf as a one-dimensional sport. I watch as much of the European Tour or the DP World Tour as much as I do of the PGA Tour for that reason. So yeah, I like Paul McGinley's take on it. I know Steve and I are going to talk at some stage about the golf ball rollback. Um, not for this episode, but yeah, if there's been a couple of interesting perspectives we've had. If you want to listen, we had Sasha McKenzie on the show probably 12 months ago. He was on episode 32, I think it is. So if you want to go back and have a listen to what Sasha McKenzie has to say about the golf ball rollback, that was quite an interesting conversation. But personally, I think that there needs to be a lot more diversification around the way or the what we see on TV and the way that golf courses are set up, and whether that be through golf course setup, whether that be through a golf ball rollback or equipment changes. Yeah, I'm not sure what the answer is, but I certainly think it probably needs to be a combination of those things. But from my perspective, I really liked that it was a tough test of golf this week. I like the US Open. I think the US Open is it's different. It's not they're never going to be shooting sort of 15, 20 under par. I've said that I think that somewhere between sort of 5 under, possibly 10 under as a winning score is good for a major championship and to test the best players of the world. I mean, in at the end of the day, that's what the major championships are trying to do. They're trying to test the best golfers in the world to see who comes out on top. They're not, well, certainly from my perspective, they're not meant to be shooting 15, 20 under par. And you look at the Century, earlier on in the year. I mean, what won some ridiculous 30 something under par? One, it was yeah. I'm not a massive fan of the golf course being set up like that, so that 30 something under par wins. I'd much prefer a better test and a harder test of golf that will test the best golfers out in the world. Lastly, we need to have a bit of a Rory conversation. I mean, I did say tongue in cheek earlier that whether we find out who's the biggest sook about Rory not rocking up to the media or Steve not rocking up to the podcast, but in all seriousness, I mean, Rory's had a bit of a love-hate relationship in recent times with the media, and being honest, I don't like his current perspective on the media. It seems very combative. I know that's sort of that's culminated over a number of years, and I know he wasn't particularly happy with the leaking of his driver not being compliant in the PGA Championship. Again, that's probably a bit of a larger conversation, which I won't sort of get into here. But he just seems a bit over it. He seems pretty tired. He seems, to me, he needs a bit of a break from the game. I think he would do well just to sort of just go, you know what, I'm just going to take some time out. I know the Open's coming up and he's going to want to play in the Open, but I hope after the Open he just takes some time. I don't feel as though he has really processed winning the Masters and becoming a career Grand Slam champion. I feel as though there's still a lot of pent up emotion there that he really just needs to get away from the game and refresh. I did hear his comment that he believes he's earned the right to choose when to engage with the media. I don't agree with it. I actually quite like Brandel Chambly's take on it, and I'm not a huge fan of Brandel Chambly, but his perspective is the media is the conduit to the fans and fans like you and me. I mean, I don't get to go and watch Rory that often. I have seen Rory play when he's been out to Australia. I watched him win the not the US Open, the Australian Open at Royal Sydney when he beat Adam Scott on the last. But at the end of the day, that's how I get to know Rory. That's how we all get to, or the viewers, the TV viewers get to know Rory through the media. We get to hear what he has to say. We get to see how he feels. We get to, through the media, have a conversation with him. And while it's not directly, it's indirectly. But I listened to Rory's interview after the Masters, and it was sort of 20-25 minutes. I also listened to Justin Rose's interview after the Masters. I like to understand what the players are feeling, what they're going through. Just so I can, know them better and know, who they are as people, and I can frame it a little bit better in my mind as to how they perform. And I just feel as though Rory's sort of missing that perspective, that he's not, and I know that there are guys in the media who have their own agenda and don't necessarily put the best take on their stories. There's going to be people like that in all walks of life. But at the end of the day, the fans, the viewers, they're the reason why big business puts millions and millions of marketing dollars into golf. And that's the reason why Rory and, Scotty Scheffler and, these guys, it's the reason they get the opportunity to earn millions and millions and millions of dollars and live a great lifestyle. So for Rory, or I know Colin Morikawa has the same perspective to say, I owe you nothing, which is what Morikawa said. I disagree with that because I don't think it's he's not saying that to the media, even though on face value that's what he thinks he's saying. He's really talking to the fans through the media, and that's Brandel Chambly's perspective, and I completely agree with that perspective. So I think there needs to be a bit of a wider conversation around how players engage with the media, because I just don't like where that's heading. You look at virtually any other sport on the planet where a lot of money is being paid to the players, and they go and talk to the media. It's mandatory that they go and talk to the media. So golf is in a bit of a unique position where they get to choose, but I'm not convinced that they're making the right choice at the moment. Anyway, Pilgrims, that's it from me. Steve will be back on deck with me next week. We'll have a bit of a larger conversation into some of the underlying themes of the US Open. I know Steve's got a couple of perspectives on the week, and I'll look forward to catching up with you guys then. Until then, rock out, Pilgrims.
Thanks for listening to us today. We love hearing from our pilgrims, so please reach out to us through any of the links in the show notes. We know golf is hard, so we hope we can help you shoot better scores and inspire you to keep trying. Rock on, pilgrims.